Hello students, in today's session we will learn about quadratic equation. Okay, so you would have learned about quadratic polynomials. A quadratic polynomial is any polynomial of the form ax square plus bx plus c, where a, b and c are real numbers. Okay, and a is not equal to 0. Now, this is a quadratic polynomial. When we equate this polynomial to 0, it becomes a quadratic equation. So, equation means we are equating something. When we equate a quadratic polynomial to 0, it becomes a quadratic equation. Now, it is important to note in this definition is that a, B, and C are real numbers. So they can be decimals, they can be fractions, they can be rationals, but it has to be a real number. Okay. And what is the significance of this saying that A not equal to 0? Okay. So suppose you have something 0 into x square plus 8x plus 6 is equals to 0. Okay. Now this becomes 8x plus 6 equals to 0. Now if your a is 0, then this no longer remains a quadratic equation. This is a linear equation. Okay. And we would have learned this in polynomials also, that if a is 0, then it is no longer a quadratic polynomial also. Okay. Now, if we talk about the coefficient b, these are called the coefficients. Okay. And these are called the terms. Okay. So, a cannot be 0, whereas b can be 0. Okay. So, if we write 8x square plus 7 is equals to 0. Now, there is no term with containing x. Okay. So, this is still a quadratic polynomial. Whereas, if I talk about this 8x square plus 2x is equals to 0. This is again a quadratic polynomial. So, because here c is equal to 0, the constant term is 0. So this can be equal to 0, this can be equal to 0, but this cannot be equal to 0. So this defines our quadratic equation. Okay. So now let's take some examples of quadratic equations. Okay. Um, Now we have to check whether the given quadratic equations are quadratic, or whether the given equations are quadratic equations or not. Okay. So let's take one example, which is x square minus 2x is equals to minus 2 into 3 minus x. Now to check whether this is a quadratic equation or not, we have to simplify LHS and RHS. Now our LHS is already simplified. Let's simplify the RHS. So this is minus 6. Minus 2 into 3 minus 6 plus 2x. Okay. Now let's club all the terms. It should be x square. Okay. Minus 4x. I brought this 2x on the left hand side. Plus 6 is equals to 0. So yes, this is a quadratic equation. All right. So this is a quadratic equation. And let's take some more examples of quadratic equation. Okay, so the next example is, let's take 2x minus 1 into x minus 3 is equals to x plus 5 into x minus 1. Now we have to simplify LHS and RHS. Okay, so let me multiply this 2x with this bracket. Okay, so this is kind of, we will first multiply this term with the entire bracket and then we will multiply this term with the entire bracket. Okay, so this is 2x square minus 6x. Now multiply minus 1 with this entire bracket, x minus 3 minus x plus 3 is equals to x square minus x plus 5x minus 5. Okay, now let's simplify this. 2x square minus 7x plus 3 is equals to x square plus 4x minus 5. Okay, so this is, bring all these terms to the left hand side and it becomes x square minus 7x minus 4x plus 3 plus 5 is equals to 0. So this becomes x square minus 11x plus 8 is equals to 0. So this is also a quadratic equation. All right. So now let's take another example. Of x square plus 3x plus 1 is equals to x minus 2 whole square. Okay, now let's simplify this. X square plus 3x plus 1 is equals to x square plus 4 minus 4x. Okay, so x square is cancelled on both the sides and let's bring all the terms to the left hand side. This becomes 7x minus 3 is equals to 0. This is not a quadratic equation. So the moment a becomes 0, the moment coefficient of x square becomes 0, it will no longer be a quadratic equation. Okay, it's just that whenever you are given some equation, try to simplify LHS and RHS and then in the simplified form, check whether the coefficient of x square is 0 or not 0. If it is non-zero, then it is a quadratic equation. Otherwise, it is not a quadratic equation. Okay. So now let's talk about the next topic, which is roots of a quadratic equation. Okay. Now what is a root? Suppose ax square plus bx plus c. This is a quadratic equation. Okay. Now alpha is a root of quadratic equation above if it satisfies the equation. So now what does that mean? Alpha satisfies the equation. It means if you replace x by alpha, LHS will become equal to RHS, which is 0. It means A alpha square plus B alpha plus C is equals to 0. For example, let's say your quadratic equation is x square minus 3x plus 2 is equals to 0. Okay. Now this is a quadratic equation. Now if I say that alpha is equals to 1 is a root of this equation. Now solve this equation, put x is equals to 1. So this is 1 minus 3 plus 2, which is 3 minus 3, which is 0. So any real number alpha, okay, if it satisfies this quadratic equation, it will be called root of the quadratic equation. Okay, so there are various ways to find out the roots of a quadratic equation. So now let's learn different ways to find out roots of a quadratic equation. Okay, so number one method is factorization method. Okay, this is also called middle term splitting. And the other method is completing the square method. Okay. And third is quadratic formula. Okay. So we will learn all these methods one by one. Let's first focus on factorization method. Okay. So let's take some example of a quadratic equation, which is 2x square minus 5x plus 3. And my equation will be same for all the three methods. 2x square minus 5x plus 3 equals to 0. So in factorization method, we have to find, let's write it as, take the product of the first term and the constant term, okay, which is 2 and 3. So this is plus 6, okay, and now here write down the middle coefficient of the middle term, which is coefficient of x, which is minus 5, okay. Note that you have to write the signs as well. If it is plus, if the product is plus, then you have to write plus 6, and here if the sign is minus, you have to write minus sign as well. Okay, now first write this sign for the first number, okay, and for the second sign you have to decide that since you have to find two numbers such that the product is plus 6 and sum is minus 5. Okay, so if one sign is negative, the other sign has to be positive to make this the other sign has to be negative to make the product positive. If this sign was positive, then the product would have been negative, but no, since we have the sign here is positive, so minus into minus will make the product positive. Okay, so let's take 2 and 3. Okay, so the sum of these two, minus 2 minus 3, is minus 5. So let's write down 2x square minus 2x minus 3x plus 3 is equals to 0. Now you can clearly notice some common values. In the first two terms, we have 2x as common and write down x minus 1. Okay. And then you have 3 as common and write down x minus 1. So this becomes x minus 1 into 2x minus 3 is equals to 0. Correct? So now, since this is 0, either x minus 1 is 0 or 2x minus 3 is 0. Okay, so either of them will make the entire equation satisfied. Okay, So if x minus 1 is 0, x is 1. Here x is 3 by 2. So both of them, either we use x is equals to 1 or we use x is equals to 3 by 2. For both the cases, if x is 3 by 2, then this product becomes 0 and the entire equation becomes 0. Okay, the LHS becomes 0. And if x is 1, again this product will become 0 and LHS will become 0. Okay, so both the values of x satisfy this equation, and hence x is equals to 1 and x is equals to 3 by 2 satisfy this quadratic equation, and hence they are the roots of this quadratic equation. So important point in this factorization method is that you have to find two numbers such that the product is product of the constant term and the coefficient of x square, which is, we can say, first and the third coefficient. In case of quadratic equations, we have three terms. One is x square, one is x, and one is constant. Okay, so we have to take product of first term, first coefficient, and the third coefficient, which is 2 into 3, which is 6 plus 6. Write down the sign also. And here we have to find out such x, two values such that the sum is this. Okay, you will write like this, and now write the signs. If this sign is negative, first sign will be negative. Then write down the other sign. So the other sign should make the product positive. So minus into minus will be positive. So that's why we use minus. And then write down 2, 3. So minus 2 into minus 3 is plus 6. Minus 2 minus 3 is minus 5. So this is factorization method. Okay. This is factorization method. So let's learn another method of finding the roots of the quadratic equation. Again, my quadratic equation will be same. Okay, so method of completing the square. Okay, so let's use the same quadratic equation. 2x square minus 5x plus 3 is equals to 0. Okay, so to complete the square, okay, so this is b. Okay, so now let's take it as, first divide by the coefficient of x square. Divide the entire equation by the coefficient of x square. Okay, so this is x square. Okay, all right, so this cancels out. This becomes x square minus 5 by 2x plus 3 by 2 is equals to 0. Okay, so now look at the middle coefficient. This is minus 5 by 2. Okay, let's multiply it by 1 by 2 and then take the whole square. This is the important part. This is, say, b, and then we will divide it by 2. Okay, and then we will take the whole square, which is 5 by 4 whole square. And now we will add this term on both the sides. Okay, now if we add this term on both the sides, what we will get? So this is x square minus 5 by 2x plus 5 by 4 whole square, okay, plus 3 by 2 is equals to 5 by 4 whole square. Okay, so this becomes x minus 5 by 4 whole square. Okay, these three terms become whole square plus 3 by 2. Let's take this 3 by 2 to the right hand side. Okay, so this is 25 by 4 minus 3 by 2. Okay, so this becomes x minus 5 by 4 whole square is equals to, let's take the LCM on the right hand side, 25 minus 6. So this is x minus 5 by 4 whole square. So this is 25 by 16. Okay, so this is 8. So I have corrected it. This LCM is 16 instead of 4. That was my bad. This is 16. Okay, so if we solve it further, this is how much? 1 by 16. Okay, so if we solve it further, we get x minus 5 by 4 is equals to plus minus 1 by 4. Okay, so this is x is equals to 5 by 4 plus minus 1 by 4. Okay, so x can be 5 by 4 plus 1 by 4, or x can be 5 by 4 minus 1 by 4. So this is 6 by 4, or x can be 4 by 4. So this is x is equals to 3 by 2, or x is equals to 1. Okay, so let's summarize what we did in this entire solution using method of completing the square. Okay, so our equation was 2x square minus 5x plus 3. What we did was, we first divided the entire equation by the coefficient of x square. So this is this step. Okay, so after dividing, we reached this step, and then the important point was, check out the middle term coefficient minus 5 by 2. Okay, divide the middle term coefficient by 2 and then take its whole square. This is the important point. So this is 5 by 4 whole square, minus sign doesn't matter. So 5 by 4 whole square, add that 5 by whole square both the sides. Okay, this was the important step, and then simplify it. So these three terms, x square minus 5 by 2x plus 5 by 4 whole square, this 5 by 4 whole square, what was the purpose of adding this term? The purpose of adding this term was, we already had these two, x square and x. Okay, we needed some constant term to complete this whole square, to bring it in the form, something of the form x minus a whole square. Now we don't know this a, so we got this a by dividing this middle term coefficient by 2 and taking its square. Okay, so that is the reason we used this. Okay, so this completes method of completing the square. So next method is quadratic formula, using the quadratic formula. Okay, so let's write down the equation. 2x square minus 5x plus 3 is equals to 0. Okay, so now quadratic formula is given by minus b plus minus square root of b square minus 4ac divided by 2a. Okay. So now let me write this. Minus b is minus of minus 5. This is a, this is b, this is c. Plus minus square root of, let's write down, a is 2, b is minus 5, c is 3. Okay. B square, this is 25 minus 4 into 2 into 3 divided by 2a, which is 4. So this is x is equals to 5 plus minus square root of 25 minus 24 by 4. Okay. So this is x is equals to 5 plus minus 1 by 4. So x is 5 plus 1 by 4, or x is 5 minus 1 by 4. So this is x is equals to 6 by 4, or x is 4 by 4, x is equals to 3 by 2, or x is equals to 1. So how did we solve this problem? You are given a quadratic formula. Okay. Quadratic formula is given by this. X is equals to minus b plus minus underscore of b square minus 4ac divided by 2a. And we have already standardized these notations by a, b, c. A is a coefficient of x square, b is the coefficient of x, and c is a constant term. Now just substitute these a, b, and c in this formula and solve the quadratic equation. By saying that we are solving the quadratic equation, it means you are finding out the root of this quadratic equation. So students, in this video, we learnt about what is a quadratic equation and what kind of equations qualify for quadratic equation. Okay. Which equations are exactly the quadratic equations and which are not. Then we learned how to solve the quadratic equation. Basically, we learned the roots of a quadratic equation and then how to solve these quadratic equations. Okay. So these are the topics that we covered today. How to find out root of a quadratic equation. And in the next video, we will discuss nature of roots. We will study the kind of roots, the different kind of roots of a quadratic equation. This is the topic for the next video. Stay tuned for the next video.